At 88, Jane Fonda finally tells the truth about John Wayne. Jane Fonda was born Jane Seymour Fonda on December 21, 1937, in New York City. She was going to get public attention because her dad was the famous actor, Henry Fonda. But her story wouldn't just be about her father's fame. Instead, Jane Fonda created her own special identity with amazing work success, brave political involvement, and a lifelong willingness to challenge both society and herself. Fonda's early life was filled with privilege, discipline, and emotional ups and downs, growing up in a family known for artistic excellence and keeping emotions hidden. She struggled with feelings of not being good enough and being alone, especially after her mother, Frances Ford Seymour, sadly took her own life when Jane was just 12 years old. This terrible loss left a lasting emotional mark on her heart, driving a lifelong search for meaning, self-worth, and purpose that would shape everything she did. She went to fancy schools, including Vassar College. At first, Fonda didn't plan on becoming an actress. However, after moving to Paris and later studying under famous acting teacher Lee Strasberg at the Actors Studio, she discovered a love for performing that would soon define her career. Jane Fonda made her first film in the early 1960s, quickly getting attention for her intelligence, beauty, and charm. While early roles often had her playing a glamorous ingenue, she gradually pushed against these limits, looking for more meaningful and challenging material. Her big break came with Barbarella in 1968, a cult science fiction film that made her a worldwide sex symbol. Though Fonda herself later thought about the experience as both empowering and limiting. Rather than letting Hollywood define her, she used her growing fame as power to go after more meaningful work. The 1970s marked the most critically praised period of Jane Fonda's acting career. She gave a series of powerful, life-changing performances that firmly proved her as one of the best actresses of her generation. Her role as a tired, emotionally hurt prostitute in Clute 1971 earned her the first of 2 Academy Awards, showing a depth and vulnerability that silenced any remaining doubts about her talent. She followed this with unforgettable performances in Coming Home 1978, showing the emotional awakening of a military wife, and The China Syndrome 1979, a tense political thriller that showed her growing commitment to social issues. These films not only showed her artistic range, but also mirrored her changing political awareness. Alongside her acting career, Jane Fonda became one of the most outspoken and controversial political activists of her time. Strongly opposed to the Vietnam War, she became a well-known figure in the anti-war movement, using her celebrity to make dissent louder. Her 1972 visit to North Vietnam, widely criticized and misunderstood, earned her the lasting nickname Hanoi Jane, a label that followed her for decades. Fonda later said she regretted certain parts of that trip while continuing to defend her right to protest unfair wars. Her activism, though dividing people, showed a rare willingness to risk personal and professional consequences in pursuit of her beliefs. In the 1980s, Jane Fonda once again reinvented herself, this time changing popular culture through fitness. Jane Fonda's workout, released in 1982, became the best-selling VHS of its time and started a global fitness revolution. What could have been a shallow celebrity project instead became a cultural phenomenon that empowered millions, especially women, to take control of their physical health. The success of her workout empire brought her huge financial independence, which she later used to fund political causes, film projects, and charity efforts. After stepping away from acting in the early 1990s, Jane Fonda returned to the screen in the 2000s with renewed confidence and clarity. Her later roles, ranging from comedy to drama, showed an actress unafraid of aging or reinvention. Projects like Grace and Frankie introduced her to a new generation of fans, proving that staying relevant has no expiration date. In her later years, she has continued her activism with strong energy, most notably through her outspoken support for climate action, even risking arrest during protests in Washington, D.C. after stepping away from the spotlight for more than a decade. She made a much-anticipated and triumphant return to acting in 2005, delighting audiences when she came out of retirement to star in the romantic comedy Monster Law. The film not only reintroduced her to a new generation of moviegoers, but also proved that her charm, wit, and commanding screen presence remained as powerful as ever throughout the 2000s and into the following decade. She proved that her talent was not limited to any single era, continuing to reinvent herself with a steady stream of memorable performances. Rather than slowing down, she embraced a wide range of roles that highlighted her depth, maturity, and lasting screen presence. In Georgia Rule 2007, she delivered a sharp and tough performance, reminding audiences that she could still command attention with emotional intensity and fearless honesty. She followed this with Peace, Love, and Misunderstanding 2011, a film that allowed her to blend warmth, humor, and wisdom, capturing the spirit of a free-spirited grandmother whose beliefs clashed with those of the younger generation. Her later film appearances continued to show her versatility. In The Butler 2013, she became part of a sweeping historical drama that covered decades of American political and social change, lending her seriousness to a story rooted in real-world events. The following year, This Is Where I Leave You 2014, saw her return to a more comedic and emotionally layered role, balancing sharp wit with moments of vulnerability in a story about family, loss, and reconciliation at the same time. She made a notable return to television. From 2012 to 2014, she appeared in a repeating role on HBO's praised drama, The Newsroom, where her performance added authority and complexity to the series' exploration of media, politics, and journalistic integrity. Her presence on the show was a reminder that she could easily move between film and television, bringing the same level of believability and nuance to both mediums. In 2017, she captivated audiences once again by reuniting with Robert Redford in the Netflix film Our Souls at Night. The quiet, tender romance was widely praised for its emotional restraint and authenticity, offering a moving portrayal of companionship and love later in life. Their on-screen chemistry, decades after their earlier collaborations, felt natural and deeply affecting, connecting with viewers around the world. The following year, she reached a new generation of fans with the hit romantic comedy Book Club 2018. The film became a surprise success, celebrating friendship, self-discovery, and romance among older women, and further cemented her status as a cultural icon who refused to be defined by age. Jane Fonda's romantic life has unfolded in chapters as dramatic and life-changing as the roles she has played on screen. Her first marriage began in 1965 when she married the bold French filmmaker Roger Vadim, a man who helped shape her early public image as a daring modern sex symbol. Although the marriage ultimately ended in divorce, it produced one lasting bond, their daughter, who became a central and deeply loved part of Fonda's life. In 1973, Fonda entered a very different phase when she married political activist and author Tom Hayden. This relationship showed a turning point in her identity as she became increasingly involved with social justice, political causes, and activism. Together, they had a son, and for years, they were seen as one of the most intellectually and politically engaged couples of their era. Her third marriage, to media mogul Ted Turner in 1991, placed her at the intersection of Hollywood and global business power. As the wife of the cable television tycoon and founder of CNN, Fonda stepped into a world defined by vast influence and ambition. Though the marriage lasted a decade, it too ended in divorce in 2001. At 88 years old, Jane Fonda no longer feels any need to soften her words or back away from the beliefs that have defined her life. Time, thinking back, and survival have given her a rare clarity. And when she speaks about John Wayne today, it is not with bitterness, but with clear honesty. Fonda has often said that her conflict with Wayne was never personal in the way people imagined. "I didn't hate John Wayne as a man," she explains. "I hated what he represented, and I hated how many people confused that representation with truth." To Fonda, Wayne was not just a movie star. He was a symbol, a living example of a rigid, masculine nationalism that left no room for disagreement, empathy, or complexity. Their most infamous clash came during the Vietnam War, when Wayne publicly attacked Fonda for her anti-war activism. "He called me unpatriotic, dangerous, a traitor," she recalls. "And what struck me wasn't the insult, it was the fear behind it." Fonda believes Wayne truly feared that questioning authority would tear apart the country he believed in. Looking back, Fonda says she understands why Wayne saw her as a threat. "I was a woman speaking loudly, unapologetically, and refusing to stay in my place," she says. That scared men like him more than any protest sign. In a Hollywood long controlled by male authority, Fonda's activism broke expectations. Despite everything, Fonda insists she has no regrets. "I paid a price," she admits. "I lost roles. I lost fans. I lost years of peace, but I could live with myself." When asked whether Wayne's attacks ever made her doubt herself, she answers simply, "No. If anything, they confirmed I was doing something right." Now in her late 80s, Fonda thinks about legacy more than conflict. She believes history has made John Wayne's image more complicated. "People are finally asking who he was beyond the movies," she says, "and they're realizing heroes can be deeply flawed." Fonda also admits that time has softened her anger. "I don't carry rage anymore," she says. "Rage is heavy, truth is lighter." In the end, Jane Fonda does not seek vindication. She seeks understanding. John Wayne stood for certainty, she says. "I stood for questioning. History decides which mattered more." At 88, her voice may be quieter, but its resolve remains unshaken.